What's up, connoisseurs? It's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community and the channel that was created by a retail investor for retail investors. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, November 1st, brand new month. Hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be discussing a topic that has been coming up a lot lately. I've been getting asked, is MJ ever going to hit new all-time highs, and specifically Canadian MJ? So true or false? I'm curious to think what you think in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on this, but before we get to it, make sure to smash a like. It helps support me in the channel. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. And fun fact, Elon Musk said that they're going to be releasing a competitor to the YouTube creators monetization product. So lots of great things happening here with X, and going to be using this as my platform of choice going forward. So I just want to let everybody know, I posted on X as well that, fun fact, it took Amazon 10 years to hit a new all-time high after the dot-com bubble. And that was the all-time high in 1999. The next time it hit an all-time high was in 2009, and they weren't selling Schedule 1 federally illegal drugs in the US. What's the moral of the story? And if we just go in here, we had a comment from Gary. He said those companies have nothing to do with each other. You could just as well list some companies that did reverse splits and ended up filing for bankruptcy. Well, there was tons of companies in the dot-com days who filed for bankruptcy and all that stuff. That's not the moral of the story. That's emotions talking, right? And frankly, it just doesn't make any sense. The moral of the story is patience. And as Warren Buffett says, the stock market is a mechanism from transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient. It has nothing to do with what sector it's in, what type of company it is. It's the stock market. The reason why he made that comment is all encompassing. If it's in the stock market, and it can be applied to, crypto, it can be applied to, real estate and whatnot as well. But, mostly the stock market is about making you feel some type of way. It's about making you chase a headline, right? Look what happened with the DEA. The headline made it look like, oh, it's delayed until 25. It was like 2025. It's the worst headline ever. But if you actually read into it, it's actually not that bad. And, it's the holidays. Things are, kind of slowly progressing, and the hearing's going to still go on the 2nd. It's just testimonies and things like that are going to be in January or in February, literally a month or two later, and people are losing their ever-loving minds. So this tells me there's a lot of impatient and emotional people. So if that's one of you, well, then you're doing the exact opposite of what one of the most, popular and successful, if not the successful, investor has ever said, right? And he says, you need to be patient, right? It's a mechanism from transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient. So again, if we just go to Amazon, and I don't understand why people say, "Oh my God, he said the word Amazon in an MJ video." Okay, you just need to stop investing if that's the case, and never look at the stock market again. Because if you're getting triggered by that, you're definitely going to get triggered by these talking heads. They're going to make you capitulate. They're going to make you buy the top and sell the bottom every time. Because if you're getting triggered by the word Amazon in an MJ video, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. Shut the video off. Stop investing. Go work at Uber Eats, whatever you need to do. Skip the dishes, because investing is probably not for you. If you're getting that, leave the emotions at the door. It has nothing to do with the same sector. In fact, the fact that MJ is a Schedule 1 illegal drug, and these companies, Apple almost went bankrupt in 1997. It took years for it to hit all-time highs, right? Look at Amazon. In 1999, it hit an all-time high, right, of 565, factoring in post-split. The next time it hit an all-time high was in 2009. This is when we broke above the previous all-time high. 10 years. How many people, and it dropped 95% during that time frame, how many people got wrecked? And then how many people said, well, it's down 95%, I'm going to sell at a loss, and the stock market isn't for me, blah, 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 or they did. And then they just got bored to oblivion, right? Like it bottomed out in 2001, and then it took 8 years for it to hit a new all-time high, right? But there was still opportunity, right? You could have still saw about, 26 X gains, right? 2,600% gains if you bought the absolute low to going to new all-time highs, right? Just from the low to the high there, that was about a 20X. So the moral of the story is we just have to be patient. And, to say that, these companies are never going to hit new all-time highs again, like, it's just emotions. It's literally nothing else. It's very low IQ emotional thinking. Yes, there's going to be some companies that don't hit all-time highs, right? But MSOS could very well hit a new all-time high again. And if it did, that's about a 7.5 700x move from here, so 750% move. But there's names like CGC, right? Especially the Canadian names. The Canadian names, yeah, they might not ever hit all-time highs again. Some of these names like CGC, some of these names like, Tilray that had the huge IPO and hit $300 a share and then dropped all the way down to $1.50. CGC, ACB, like let's just take a look at ACB. We're sitting at $5.58 after multiple reverse splits. The all-time high is sitting at $1,503. Well, probably not a very high probability. I would say probably less than like 5% that this thing hits a new all-time high. But what is the most likely scenario? It's probably a merger and acquisition and consolidation in the space. So what could be a possible scenario? Well, Aurora could potentially get acquired by another company in a blue chip phase. Then that company that acquires Aurora might not have an all-time high that far away, might have better, like economics in terms of, their share structure and everything like that. So there might be, some benefits there, but, they could merge with a company and then that company could hit all-time highs, right? Just think of Aphria and Tilray. When Aphria and Tilray merger announcement happened, Aphria went on to hit new all-time highs, right? But imagine if it would have been the other way around, or, what if Tilray gets acquired by Curaleaf and then Curaleaf hits new all-time highs, right? Like there's so many scenarios, or, some big alcohol, big tobacco, big pharma could come in and buy a bunch of these MJ companies and then that company could hit new all-time highs. Like there's so many scenarios. Yes, there's but VFF is a name that could hit all-time highs, right? Like we could easily go back up 20x to, back up to $20 from here. High Tide is a Canadian name. This thing could easily hit all-time highs. Like we're only 350% away. Trulieve did that in like a year, right? Like look at TCNNF. Trulieve from the low there to the high went up over 300%. So High Tide could definitely do it. SNDL is another name that has a huge all-time high, but that's about 61x from here, and the all-time high sitting at looks like 130. But keep in mind there was a split as well, a 1 for 10. So it could very well happen. There's been a lot of dilution, yes. Is it more likely that the Canadian names don't see dilution? Well, you have to remember they were first. They were one of the first. The U.S. names are they came after the fact, right? So they didn't have all of the crazy trials and tribulations, and they learned a lot from the Canadian landscape. And they also have, the biggest economy in the world, and they're charging like $300 US on average for an ounce. Like it's just ludicrous, insane, right? Eventually, once legalization happens, it's already happening in Florida. You're seeing like huge price compression and companies struggling to stay afloat because there's so much competition and price wars and compression, right? So you have to think about this for a second. Like, yes, there's going to be some names in Canada that don't hit all-time high, and the first one that I would think of would probably be ACB, then CGC and Tilray. But there's lots of names like Cron could easily hit all-time high. We could easily see an all-time high on High Tide. Cron easily could see an all-time high. That would only be a move of about 10x from here. Like we're talking 10x is like just peanuts for some of these MJ stocks, right? Like that's just like a walk in the park. Like 10x in a sector that is nascent, it's still federally illegal in the U.S. Like there's countries that still offer the death penalty. You can't even advertise here in Canada. There's still high excise taxes in Canada. About a third of these companies' revenues going to excise taxes. Believe me, there's going to be all-time highs again in this sector. There's going to be mergers and acquisitions. There's going to be some names like, for example, like an Auxly. Well, that's another name that might not hit all-time highs again, but there's a slight chance that it could. And there's also a very high probability that it could merge with another company. What if, let's say, Cron, with all that cash, bought Auxly, or Cron bought another company, right? Let's say Cron, for, just theoretical purposes, and, just to kind of hypothesize this, if Cron went through and acquired Auxly, well, Auxly shares turn into X amount of Cron shares, right? And then what if Cron goes back to all-time highs, right? So there's going to be so many scenarios. There's going to be multiple MSOs becoming LPs. LPs are going to be MSOs. We're already seeing it. You're seeing Acreage combined through the CUSA entity with Canopy USA. You're seeing them become Canadian LP, become an MSO. Curaleaf just bought Northern Green Canada in Canada and is now a Canadian LP and operator. So we're already seeing it, right? And we're not even in the blue chip phase yet. Wait until we hit the blue chip phase. You're going to see major acquisitions and mergers, right? You're going to see like big pharma, big tobacco, big alcohol probably getting in the space. Think of your Constellations and your Altrias of the world, right? There's going to be more of that. And then there's going to be big tier one LPs merging with big tier one MSOs, right? Like think like a Curaleaf and a Tilray merger. That could happen. Very possible, right? Anything could happen. So, and there's talks about, like Boston Beer and Green Thumb. So like there's so many things that could happen. And we just don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. And another thing I'll say is we don't need to hit all-time highs. Like, who cares? Like, if you bought CGC down here at 276 post-split, and let's just say it goes back to $50 post-split. That's a 17x move. That's $1,000 investment into $17,000. Or if it just goes back to $100 or $10, right? Factoring in the split, it would be $100, but pre-split, that's only $10. That's 35x. That's $1,000 into $35,000. Or let's say you bought $10,000 at Canopy at the bottom there. That's $350,000. So we don't need all-time highs or new all-time highs to see massive gains here. And this is the same thing with Tilray. It's the same thing with Auxly, right? If you got this thing at a penny, it just went to 7 cents. That's almost 600% gain, right? Like from the low there to the high, yeah, that is a 600% gain. And we could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bull cross. So there's going to be tons of opportunity out there, and we don't need all-time highs. Most of these people that say you're never going to see all-time highs again, they're not here. Like, they're not buying and holding. They're mostly traders. And, they celebrate over a 5% gain. I'm not here for 5% gains. I'm not here for 50% gains. I'm not here for 500% gains. I just had 500% gains on Auxly and I didn't sell a share. In fact, I'm buying more. I'm waiting for the 25Xs, the 50Xs, the 100X gains. That's what I'm here for, the generational wealth. I'm not here for taco gains. Not knocking anybody that is, but we don't need all-time highs in this space to see, massive wealth generation. And, at the end of the day, there's going to be another bull market. There's going to be another euphoric, multiple 52-week highs and all-time highs in this space. It's just how long is it going to take to get there, and how many, tier one companies are going to be left by that time? Are we going to see a ton of mergers and acquisitions? Are we going to see big pharma, alcohol, tobacco continue to get into the space? That's an option, a possibility as well, right? So hopefully this video was helpful. I'm going to be making another video soon as well about, how many people in the industry and in the MJ sector lost money versus making money. There's tons of people on every side of that equation, right? There's always, if you lost money, someone made money. And if you made money, someone lost money. That's what the stock market is. It's basically one big, giant pyramid scheme. But so is the US dollar, right? The US government has the most of it and they just keep printing more of it, right? And, everything's a pyramid scheme and a Ponzi scheme when you think about it to a certain degree. So, it's the early adopters get in and then they benefit versus the late bloomers, right? The people who come in late. So just the way it is. And don't let anybody tell you that there's never going to be any all-time highs in some of these names. Like, okay, maybe a few, but the whole sector will see all-time highs again. And look 5 years out, look 10 years out. Look at the Amazon example. They weren't selling Schedule I drugs, and Apple as well, and they almost went bankrupt. If it wasn't for Microsoft giving them $150 million. So cut these MJ companies some slack here, right? They got, these crazy taxes like 280E, which they can't, deduct their COGS or cost of goods sold, right? So there's these, and Apple could deduct their COGS, and they almost went bankrupt still, right? So, you weren't getting the death penalty for possessing computers in certain areas of the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous that people are putting MJ on a different pedestal when the same thing has happened to every other industry. And then people say, oh, don't compare it to that industry because it's not the same. Yes, it's in the stock market. The stock market is a mechanism for transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient. Like, it's so simple, but people get blinded by their emotions. It just, you need to leave your emotions at the door. It's not that complicated, folks. You just need to be, a realist and call a spade. And when you're in a new industry like this, it's going to happen to many other industries, right? Upcoming AI, right? EVs. You see 80, 90% corrections, but that means there's still tons of upside, right? And generational wealth can be made. And I think, MJ is going to be one of the best performing sectors over the next couple of years. Next 5 to 10 years is going to create more millionaires than any other industry, maybe, crypto and AI, and then MJ, right? Like there's so much potential here. It's not even funny. Biotech, psychedelics, all of that stuff. So hopefully this video was helpful. Keep an eye out for that next video as well. Like I said, I'll be discussing, the industry and how many people made money, how much versus how many people lost money. And you can let me know which one of those, which side of the fence you're on. All right. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. It's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth, and we'll see you again on the next video.